All right, everyone, welcome back to Premier Study Investing. So happy to have you. We're going to be looking at Relief Therapeutics. I know that many of the subscribers and viewers, they love this company. It's my largest holding, so I should say that right off the bat. And I did pick up another 3,000 shares this week, just above 26 cents US. So for this video, I'm going to draw your attention to this. The 3.25 say billion shares plus 1.25 billion plus the 375 million. So as we go through this, I know this is about 4.8. I did another video that put the total shares possible at 5.1 billion. So for this video, I'm just going to use 5, okay? Just to make our lives easier. There's been a lot of information come out, which has been great. One headline from their website has been Relief reports that NeuroRX has announced that Aviptadil has been selected for inclusion in the NIH-sponsored global clinical trial, which includes Aviptadil and remdesivir. So a little bit of head-to-head action. I actually also own pretty large stake in Gilead Sciences, which is the company that's been running remdesivir. But we'll really see. I think it'll be interesting. Obviously, I think we all know that people have said, okay, remdesivir as an antiviral isn't going to definitely change things, but they are, using it a lot all over the globe. And so it'll be really interesting to see the outcome of that. The nice thing is that basically it's funded by the U.S. government, and so that'll be good, by the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. So it's nice for them to run a trial for us, and we don't have to pay for it. That's great. Additionally, there's a new annual report out for 2020. It came out April 15th, 2021. And so I'm not going to have a bunch of time. It's 80 pages or so. If you'd like to calculate the number of shares outstanding, you can go to page 12 of this investor presentation. I came up with 4.899 billion shares with a little bit of rounding, so just short of 5. Anyways. Okay, so moving on, you can see April 5th, 2021, Valuation Lab did an analysis, and they had put out one before, but basically, at the end of the day, what you're really interested in is, this is a huge DCF, and they've done a lot of different things, breaking down each of the categories into its own business line, and then calculating the present value. What we have here is a risk-adjusted net present value per share in Swiss francs of 92.9, so 0.929, about 0.93 Swiss francs per share. Anyways, you can read all that. It's 65 pages long, and so it's pretty interesting. Definitely, if you haven't perused that and looked at it, it's really interesting. Here's all their key products, and they break them all down as far as just a ton of information. So a big shout out to one of the commenters. They sent me a link to this 800-page document, and I don't say that in jest. Seriously, it was nice to check it out. This came out April 16th, 2021. It's filed with the SEC in the United States. Big Rock Partners Acquisition Corp. I'll give you the highlights of just what this is, but you can see there's basically prospectus for up to 75 million shares, 75.2 million shares of common stock. Big Rock Partners Acquisition Corp. If you've heard of this before, it's a United States company out of Delaware. What it basically says is that NeuroRX will survive the merger, and NeuroRX will become a wholly owned subsidiary of BRPA. Also goes on, in connection with the merger, BRPA will change its name to NRX Pharmaceuticals. NRX Pharmaceuticals, with stockholders of NeuroRX becoming stockholders of NRX Pharmaceuticals. So you may be thinking, okay, that's interesting, but NeuroRX is a private company. What does that mean for holders of Relief? So what I did is I basically just going to walk you through the Relief comments. So as you know, NeuroRX has been in commercial partnership with Relief Therapeutics for Aviptadil, now reformulated Zyesami, an FDA Fast Track designation investigational pre-commercial drug for the Rona-related respiratory failure. The partnership affords Relief Therapeutics the right to fund all formulation and clinical development of Aviptadil for treatment of respiratory disease in exchange for predetermined share profits, and we'll look at some of that later. NeuroRX has a drug of its own and some things like that for antidepressant drug. But let's keep going. So it looks like there's a reimbursement of expenses from Relief Therapeutics for $10 million. That was last year. Now this is interesting. Funding of clinical development cost and formulation cost of Aviptadil may lead to a dispute with Relief Therapeutics. The highlighted section says, we'll start here. The additional cost of the increased patient trial population and increased time frame from 28 days to 60 days has been borne by NeuroRX, as Relief Therapeutics has, to date, not funded these additional costs. In addition, NeuroRX discovered that the formulation and stability data provided by Relief Therapeutics in its investigational medicinal products dossier with Relief Therapeutics submitted to European regulators was non-reproducible. The IMPD data documented 18 months or longer shelf stability for Aviptadil acetate in saline, a product that is designated as RLF-100 in the Relief agreement. NeuroRX advised Relief Therapeutics in January of 2021 that the formulation documented in the IMPD yielded only 60-day stability and began developing a longer stability product, Zyesami, aiming for a shelf life of at least 1 year. As of April 9th, 2021, Relief Therapeutics has not funded the cost of reformulation of Aviptadil into a shelf-stable product, which has required NeuroRX to deploy capital from alternative investors. These circumstances may lead to a dispute with Relief Therapeutics regarding what share of profits Relief Therapeutics should be entitled to receive based upon its reduced participation in the project. I thought that was very noteworthy. Obviously, it's not something you'd like to hear if you're a shareholder of Relief, but there it is in black and white. This is somewhat interesting. This is NeuroRX speaking. Our ability to continue to develop our product candidates is dependent upon the use of certain intellectual property that is licensed to us. Basically, we learn here that Relief Therapeutics is licensing this intellectual property to be used by NeuroRX. Okay. So what we learn here is that Relief has a 1.5 billion market valuation. So like I said, if we're talking about 5 billion shares, that'd be 30 cents a share. Well, it was nice to be able to buy it this week at 26 cents a share. Anyway, we see again that Relief is entitled to 50% of the profits from the sales of the NeuroRX drug in the United States, Canada, and Israel. And we'll learn more about how this breaks down later. Okay, so we see it here, the agreement that NeuroRX has with Relief that funds all of the development costs and splits the profits in the US, Canada, and Israel 50-50. The European Union goes 15% to NeuroRX, 85% to Relief, and the rest of the world is 20% to NeuroRX, 80% to Relief, assuming that that little hiccup that they were talking about earlier about disputing the breakdowns and the profit sharing isn't disturbed. Anyways, let's hope. Anyways, it says the valuation of Relief, which is publicly traded and has a market value of 1.5 billion. So, like we talked about that before. Now, this was something interesting that I did not know about after having looked at this previously a number of times. Basically, they're talking about the history of Aviptadil. It says that phase 2 studies conducted in the 2008 timeframe, so that was a long time ago, demonstrated statistically and clinically significant benefits in the treatment of sarcoid and pulmonary hypertension. So they thought that was interesting. It goes on, although the initial trials in the treatment of pulmonary fibrosis failed, we intend to further explore treatment of both pulmonary and cystic fibrosis. In addition, we intend to address acute lung injury caused by involuntary smoke inhalation, as well as chronic injury, lung injury caused by smoking. So that was interesting that they at least had that data. I didn't know about that. So I know there's a lot of people that are more well-informed about all this than I am. If I missed something or you can fill in the gaps for us, please let us know. I don't claim to be an expert in this company. There's obviously a lot to catch up on. To NeuroRx's knowledge, Zyesami is the first 19 therapeutic to demonstrate advantages in both survival and recovery from critical 19. With respiratory failure in a randomized, double-blind, multi-center trial. On the basis of these findings, NeuroRx plans to apply for immediate emergency use authorization and to submit an application for the NDA. Across all patients and sites, Zyesami met the primary pre-specified endpoints for, quote, alive and free of respiratory failure at day 60 with a p-value of 0.02. Usually all you need is 0.05 to be statistically significant, so that's good. 0.05 compared to 0.02, and demonstrated a statistically significant increase in odds of survival through day 60, whether or not the participant was fully recovered, and that had a p-value very good of less than 0.01. So just pausing and reading this paragraph here, I'm not going to, but it's really interesting. We'll go down to here. Zyesami participants had a 71% chance of successful recovery at day 28 versus 48% in the placebo group, and that was a good p-value of 0.017, and a 75% rate of successful recovery by day 60 versus only 55% in the placebo group. Again, very good p-value, 0.036. Now, 84% of the HFNC patients treated at the tertiary medical centers with Zyesami survived to day 60, compared with only 60% of those who were treated with placebo. And again, great p-value, 0.007. So this was some great information, and obviously the stock continues to be beat down. It was not a great week for pharmaceuticals here, like the third week in April. Okay, so I did not keep going. At some point, I thought this is going to be the longest video ever. This is an 838-page article, so I stopped at that point. I think it definitely gives you some useful information. The two things that we got as far as our price point was that if it's a $1.5 billion company and there's 5 billion shares outstanding, that's 30 cents a share. You can buy it for less than that. If we go back and we look at the valuation lab analysis, they put it in Swiss francs, almost 93, 92.9 cents a share, or 0.929 Swiss francs per share. Since it's trading over the weekend around 27, I thought it's really interesting. I'm very excited for this company, as many of you are as well. And many of you guys have got in in those early days back in August at 4, 5, 10, 16 cents a share. Anyways, I hope that helps. We will talk to you next time.